just because you're covering a topic that someone's interested in, you're not going to capture people. I know you're combative. I know that by nature, you don't like people telling you what's what. And so I'm going to say this thing and it'll make you come back to be like, I can't wait to find something that he says that I know is wrong.
Why do people hate Brendan Schaub?
I honest to God, I have no idea. I mean, the only thing I can come up with, it's so crazy how people view Francis to me, because to me, he is this absolutely superhuman wrecking ball. I think in 5 years, I'll be one of the most well-known content brands in the world.
Okay, well on. Jesse.
All right.
Welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much.
The first time you were here, you had about 5.5 thousand subscribers on YouTube. Isn't it crazy?
Is that right?
Yeah. And you came right after Kelvin Cater, after Bruce Buffer. You were part of this really cool lineup, and you didn't have much following yet. But one thing that I was shocked about in your channel is like you have this 5.5 thousand subscribers, you would have 1,000 views, and you would have 150 comments. I'm like, Jesus, how the hell this guy have so much engagement from his fans, like, or subscribers? And here we go. A couple of years later, you have your 100,000, just surpassed 100,000.
Yeah.
What's changed, man?
What's changed? Everything. I mean, everything and nothing. It's like I knew this was going to work, and I knew that this was going to happen. It was just
why?
I mean, it was one of those things where, like, I knew I've always known that I could be engaging on camera, but like after, the experiences that I had, with reality show and all that stuff, like I never sought out being on camera. Just kind of, I'm like a really big believer in kind of like follow breadcrumbs in your life. Like, it's like, if it's being very clear that things are being thrown in front of you, pay attention, and I never sought out being on camera. And yet somehow I ended up on 2 reality shows. Now that's not true. I sought out the second one, but not because of wanting to be on TV. I wanted to use a television show to promote the company that I was building. And, through those experiences, I just knew I was engaging on camera, and I could just feel like when I'm talking on camera, when I'm on a stage, people who have the thing that I have, like, it's not like we don't know while we're talking. It's like, it's an experience where, when you're kind of connecting with your audience, and it's hard to explain, but I knew that I had that. And I would have done it a long time ago if I really understood how to build on social media. But when I started TikTok and I grew so fast, it was just one of those things. That was the first time I really committed to consistency and making my goals not tied to specific KPIs that anyone external would consider to be success metrics, but the KPIs that I tied myself to were about output and consistency and committing to the process. And I did that with TikTok, and it worked. And it was like, all right. And then at the exact same time, I had this video go completely viral, where just a random video I did with my kid, and it just looked like another breadcrumb, because that's when I found out that people make money on YouTube. It was like, I just didn't even know, I really didn't know. And so when I started, I started doing math, I'm like, wait, you can make a really good living doing that. And then, so from there, I just committed to the YouTube process. I started pushing some of my TikTok people over. And now I'm at the point where, I mean, even if all of our other revenue sources dried up, I can pay our bills just on what I make on YouTube.
One thing I wasn't clear about, and I was almost confused, you had full-time job and you still were able to put out at least a video a day, which is nuts. Like I've been doing these videos, and like it takes me like 15 years to produce one video. And like, how are you able to manage it? Is it because you had some shortcut, or because you have very little editing to the video? Because you just, people put you in front of other people, and here we go, you're doing fine.
That's the cheat code. Is like, you just put me in front of a camera, ask me a question, and I'll talk, and the video is engaging. I don't know. I mean, I watch a lot of people, and I mean, I don't have the best content out of, on YouTube or anything, but in terms of just that one thing, which is talk on camera, talk in a way that's engaging, in a way that people are going to, either they're going to have some kind of reaction to. I mean, I would put myself next to literally anyone in the world on just that, which is obviously not the only component to making good content, but because I have that particular talent, it allows me to plan and strategize around that, where it's like, I can have a full-time job and no, I don't want to get into heavy editing. I don't want to get into that stuff. It's not because I'm being lazy. It's strategy. It's so that I have the bandwidth to consistently put out content. Like basically it's like, I wanted to make sure that the content is at least this good.
Yeah.
And then consistency is what's going to drive the channel, because, and so I know basically I can hit that bar. I can well surpass that bar basically with like a cell phone camera, just talking into it. You know what I mean? So that was all a plan from the beginning. And I modeled the channel after Chaels.
You know how in a startup world where you come from, they say that shipping beats perfection. It's basically the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, hey, I rather ship
Exactly
than waste all this time. So at some point you're looking at your numbers, right? And you're like, okay, it went from 10 to 11, and then, well, it went from 11 to 25. What is it? Is it particular video that hits algorithm, or what is it?
In my case, it was consistent growth with big spurts over certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I have not noticed, this is just a true statement now I could say about YouTube creators in general and channels, is if you are someone who puts out consistent content. So like we're excluding people who make documentaries, we're excluding people who have specialty stuff. But if if your channel is built around at least somewhat current events in whatever genre that you're in, if you are a consistent uploader, there will be a time where there is a topic for one reason or another that your channel gets much more attention than it normally does, where your views will be tremendously larger than normal. And I have not only experienced that myself with probably, I don't know, I could think of like four different things off the top of my head where I had explosive growth, but also on other channels where okay, I go and I look and I see someone, I haven't seen this person before, they're getting really good views, and I'll go look at their recent videos before, and it's like, oh, the reason they're doing 4 of this topic in a row is because they're doing 7 times their average views on this topic. And it can happen for a few reasons. Usually it's a matter of timing, in terms of like, it's a highly trending topic that in my experience normally coincides with people looking for new information on something, like where it's like an unfolding story that people don't feel like they have the full picture on. And so they are, looking for new information, and that channel presents itself as a place where you can learn more as the story is unfolding. And the key is they're going to click on that channel for that information, right? It's like the journey from person who's clicked on your video to person who is a consistent viewer of your channel. Like basically it's like they click on your video. That's like you got a job interview. You know what I mean? So it's like the whole process of bringing someone on board comes down to clicking on your stuff and then making the next phase engaging enough that you capture them. And so to me, there has to be something extremely memorable about your content, or the way that you made people feel when they watched your stuff, because just because you're covering a topic that someone's interested in, you're not going to capture people. But if you are thinking consciously about capturing them in every single video, then you will capture a lot of them, where, as my channel's grown and I hit different milestones, I can't even tell you how many times I get people like, I've been with you since fill in the blank of this growth spurt that I hit. Or, and then the other thing that I don't really do this anymore, but I used to very consciously do, when I was, like at a smaller stage, was I would intentionally say things that I knew were going to make people mad in about one out of every 4 or 5 videos. And that was very conscious that I would only do it that much because I don't want them to stay mad. I want them to be mad once, because then again,
emotions.
Exactly. So like they remember my channel, and if I made them, I don't want to make them hate me. I want to make them like think that they want to root against me, where like I just want to make like a claim, like a really, really strong claim that brings that emotion out of people. And it's also easy because of the genre that I'm in.
Yeah.
In combat sports, you basically know the basic personality of the people who are going to be watching. And so I use that information to kind of like manipulate them, where it's like, all right, so I know you're combative. I know that by nature, you don't like people telling you what's what. And so I'm going to say this thing, and it'll make you come back to be like, I can't wait to find something that he says that I know is wrong, so I can blow him up in the comments. Except then the next 4 videos, I'm just genuine and I talk like myself, and they're like, man, I really align with the things that he said, because he's really, he's really open about the kinds of things that I feel in my regular life that I don't really hear anybody really talk about. I think I like him.
The crazy part about that commenting, like as soon as they comment something, it actually creates engagement, and algorithm pushes your video up. It's almost like what did Mayweather said? Like, I don't care if you like me or hate me, just tune in, something like that.
As long as you're tuning in, yeah.
It's something like that, yeah. So I guess it's almost the same.
It's similar, but I intentionally I think he really doesn't care if they like dislike him long term. Where for me, it's like I want him just to initially, and then I want to bring him on the team.
Your studio has changed. Why did you think it's? Is it like because I'm a new stage and I need to make it look a little better? What was thinking behind it? Just curious.
Honestly, like Schaub offered to put me with the guy who built all their sound stages.
Brendan Schaub.
So like the guy who built Schaub's all the studios for like Schaub Show, King and the Sting, Fighter and the Kid, all those guys. Then like Whitney Cummings. I literally like think of a podcast that is with a comedian that is in that crew, and this dude built their stage, not Rogan's, but all the other ones.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, I'll send him out there. Yada, yada. I was like, absolutely, let's do that. I was green screening.
Yes, but pretty good too.
Yeah, in all honesty, I didn't think that like it was gonna have a like some kind of like tremendous impact on viewership or anything, but like, why would I not want a built-out studio versus a green screen? It just looks more professional, And then in all honesty, I don't even think that it's set up like it's built out awesome, but I'm not, I'm like the one framing the shots. Like I'm going to actually have someone come in and kind of, because I need to get set up where I have 2 microphones set up to where I can sit down, Gabrielle can sit down, or guests can sit down. And, but I just need someone to I am not an interior decorator, man, where, hey, so what makes your content special? Oh, I could basically talk about anything and I could make it entertaining. They're like, oh, wow, what a great talent. I'm like, yeah, I would put myself next to anyone in the world. They're like, what about your skills organizing things and interior designing? I'd be like, I don't know. Who do you think is the most fundamentally inept person of all time? I'm probably neck and neck with them right there.
I mean, it's a kind of cool business model, right? You only need yourself, you need the camera, and that's it. Because a lot of times you have full production crews and they make the same numbers as you when you look at viewership.
I have no idea how they make any money.
Brendan Schaub.
Yeah.
Why do people hate Brendan Schaub?
I honest to God, I have no idea. I mean, the only thing I can come up with, actually, I do know what it is. It's this Reddit group. I mean, this is just bottom line. Is like the power that a really big community can have. If the community is, I mean, think about, I don't know how to answer this without bringing kind of the current events into it, but just think about how powerful propaganda is, regardless of which side of anything you're on. If the mainstream media all starts saying this, all of a sudden, like the whole world is like, yep. And then when you find out, it's like, wait, that wasn't true. You know, it's like you had every single person believing that. I really think that like that all the hate he gets comes from this enormous Reddit group that lives to propagandize things about him that are just in my estimation not true. Where like I look at it, they take these weird clips of him and they edit them together to make him look bad. Then they'll take like these things that happened and just it's nuts. Like because I am geared towards, you know, conspiratorial things when there is a reasonable assumption that conspiracy would exist. There needs to be a reason, like a purpose. And so when there's like a conspiracy that a bunch of people are believing in, I'll go look at it just because I'm like, okay, if anything, I'm just curious why these people believe it, like flat earth, things like that.
Yeah.
And I'll look at it, I'm like, you were swayed by this? Like this, like you sent me this. I asked you, send me something convincing. This is what you sent me. This is convincing. You know, I'm like, I don't understand. And the Schaub stuff, I have actually had that conversation with multiple people where I'm like, show me something. You just said that he's a, you know, whatever, arrogant, you said all these. I'm like, show it to me. I'm like, you understand? I know him. I've spent hours and hours and hours of time with him. You've watched me talk to him for 6 hours on camera. I've spent 4 times that with him off camera. Like, I know him personally. Why are you arguing with me about his personality? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. You don't know him at all. And they're like, oh, what do you think his comedies? You think his comedy's good? I'm like, that's not what you said, dude.
What do you think?
You called him a bad person. Like you said, he's a bad person. You said he's an arrogant, you know, self-centered narcissist. That's what you said. You didn't say he's a bad comic. We're not talking about his comedy. You said that. So show it to me. And they'll send me these clips from that Reddit group that are like, even selectively edited. I'm like, what are you talking about? This demonstrates nothing. Like they sent me this thing where there was one of these things running around that Reddit group about how he injured the dude, like his like Callan, Schaub, and that dude were all messing around like grappling or whatever. Mm-hmm. They're like horse playing. They're guys, and he shot it and Schaub kind of like pressed down on his head and like and sprawled. And afterwards he was like, oh man, and he's like, my neck. And Schaub's like, oh, what? He's like, you're injured? He's like, no. He's like, he's like, I've been hurt. I've been going to the chiropractor for this and yada, yada. He literally says in the video that they demonstrate that he says, this is an ongoing thing. It's not from what just happened. And they're like, why isn't Schaub paying for his neck surgery? You're all.
Look, people like hating on him, right? Basically, that's the story.
They love hating on him.
What if, here's a conspiracy theory for you. How about Brendan Schaub created that Reddit group himself and benefits from it?
Well, that's the thing. That Reddit group used to be the fan page for their podcast. And then it turned into this horrible thing. I can tell you this with unequivocal certainty. There is absolutely no way that Schaub is in any way involved with that shit, like I'm sorry, but like in a way where he like likes it that they're hating on him. That's absolutely not the case at all. He doesn't even go online anymore. Like he's very rarely on social media, whatever, because he just like, he can't take it emotionally. They're so mean, dude.
Even under your comments, people get mean. How do you deal with that? Outside of like, yeah, obviously sometimes you respond, you make them look like idiots, but does it really stay with you? Do you sometimes think like, well, actually they're right, but it's screw them, I don't care?
I mean, let's say out of 1,000 negative comments that I get, there'll be like one where I'll be like, all right, that's kind of a fair point. Literally 999 out of 1,000 are, I mean, not that they're all nonsense, but I'm talking like where I would actually be swayed that their opinion was valid, that I had made like an error of some kind that I'm like, he's right. Most of that, I mean, there are people that, so there's like, I would say there's probably 100 out of those where I'm like, okay, that's kind of a valid point. I still agree. I mean, I don't, it doesn't change my opinion, but this is a smart person with a smart comment. And then you've got 900 that are just morons that are either just trying to get me to respond, are imbeciles or whatever. But there's not, I mean, but those are not like, that's not like my normal viewer. That's the thing is like,
yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think that the majority of those guys come from that Fighter and the Kid Reddit group. Like I'm pretty like that because there's this that kicked up immensely as soon as I got associated with Schaub, where all of a sudden there are these nerds that, and I mean, there was a second where I was actually concerned about it just because I still wasn't that big yet. And they took this thing that I said out of context. They blew it up all over the internet. And
like what did
I
mean, do you want to say it or not? You'd rather not. Okay, ignore it.
I like offline, I will tell you exactly what I said and I will stand by it 100%.
Okay.
But I'm just not doing it because it's one of those things that's like,
Gotcha.
it's too nuanced for a stupid person. It's like any smart person will understand exactly what I'm saying. A stupid person won't. And then they'll take what I said out of context and go blow me up, go I'm pretty sure they got Bisping to take the episode that he did with me down because they just started hammering him on Twitter.
Oh,
calling me. Yeah. I mean, Bisping's my boy. I talk to him all the time.
Well, okay.
But that's like,
let's get to that point. Like, so first of all, how did you meet Brendan?
Brendan's manager, not, I don't know what his technical job title is. His right-hand guy at Thick Boy was like a avid viewer of my stuff. And then he and I started talking. And then, so it was like that.
Oh, cool. And now I see you handing out with all this big steak people in the MMA world.
Yeah. I got beat up by Tim Kennedy yesterday.
I saw it. Like, how did you, is it like they invite you to all these events because you have you're so popular?
In this case, it was the 1-year anniversary of Six Blades Jiu-Jitsu headquarters opening, which is my jiu-jitsu family, and Tim Kennedy is in it. But like but I train at Six Blades Lake Travis, which is the other one. Like, so Shanji Ribeiro runs headquarters. Victor Hugo and Steve Hargett run Lake Travis. I usually train out of Lake Travis, but this was at headquarters and everyone was there. Dude, they were like, there had to have been 18 black belts there yesterday. Something like that. Maybe even more. And among black belts, Tim is a monster. He's been a black belt for like 20 years or something like that. He's dude, you get that guy on your back. He feels like somebody put a locomotive on your back. And it's just like, all right, dude, escape. He trains at headquarters on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I just found this out because he invited me. He's like, we do. So after he smashed me into the ground, he was talking about a wrestling thing. And he's like, see, because he showed me how to do it. And he's like, we do this Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9:30. He's like, come. I'm like, all right. So I'm going to go get beat up by him a lot more. Although I compete next week, so I can't train super hard this week anyway, but I'll probably go and just be like, you can't beat the shit. Sorry. You have to go easy on me Tuesdays and Thursdays. Like this Tuesday, Thursday, you could smash me again next week. But yeah, he's a really good dude. Like, he's shorter and thicker than I expected. Like, he's like my height, but about, so yesterday, let me think about this. Yesterday I weighed 197 in the morning, and I asked him after he was on top of me. He said around 210. He's big, dude. Like, he's also, like these black belts, they know how to make 210 pounds feel like 500 pounds on your back, Yeah.
And you collaborate with other YouTubers as well. I recently saw you collaborating with, what is it? MMAs? I did MMA holes. I did
and Mexican martial arts and Keaton K TV, and then Patrick Gavia was gonna come on. Patrick Gavia is my dude. I tried to bring him on.
He is an interesting guy. He blew up out of
awesome,
nowhere. Dude. His videos are pretty crazy too. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I saw his videos. He had like 15 videos or something, but they all extremely popular. He had a very
Mm-hmm.
different, obvious approach than you. He spent probably a tremendous amount of time putting them together, like the well-researched, all the video tricks he's using. Interesting
Mm-hmm.
model, but yeah, it's like obviously much more labor intensive than yours, right?
It's an extremely different approach to YouTube. Because here's the thing, like the Google algorithm is so advanced. It's so advanced. Like there is no video of mine with me sitting in front of a camera and talking where the YouTube algorithm will suggest it like a very manicured, well put together documentary that starts to do well. That like the YouTube algorithm knows if you're a person who's just sitting there talking to a camera, and you get prioritized extremely differently than a highly produced documentary. Even though he's having a ton of success, and he's just going to get more and more successful.
Yep.
But he's still kind of new to
Mhm.
YouTube, you know, just in terms of, and so I, you know, and I watch him, and he was like, he would upload, and then if the video wasn't immediately taking off, he'd change the title, stuff like that, which I know exactly what that's like. Like I literally know, I know exactly what that's like, because you look at, because, you know, well, not in his case, but in my case, I can tell how a video is going to perform in the first 15 minutes, usually. Like I can tell just by how it starts, just by the number of views, like the number of views it gets in the first 15 minutes, where it's tracking is going to dictate how well it does. I mean, there are some that keep going slow, but if it starts slow, it's never going to blow up. And if it starts really, really fast, it's going to do really well. But like for him, I told him, I'm like, dude, I think that what is driving your hockey stick is forwards, people forwarding, like, because that's why it's like some of them will start like good and then they'll just go to the moon. It's because people start forwarding it to people. They're like, dude, have you seen this one?
Oh, gotcha.
And they send it. And and I figured that out because he had one that was phenomenal about, I think it was about Tyson Fury. And the subject matter had to do with, it was just like, I don't know, like stuff that like most guys are like, wouldn't, I mean, I would, you know, talk about it with other people, but like most guys are like, oh, you know, oh, alcoholism, and he was suicidal.
Wait,
I mean, I don't know.
Was it Fury or it was Molly? Because Molly had that video, same one about Tyson Fury.
Oh, no. Both. Yeah. I mean, dude, yeah. Mixed Molly's Fury ones are amazing too. But Gavia had, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering which one it was, I'm pretty sure it was a Tyson Fury one. Cause I just remember watching it and being like, this one, people don't want to forward it because it's too personal. You know, like they don't want to you know, like they don't want to forward it and have people think like, well, I don't want people to think that I'm, you know, an alcoholic or suicidal or whatever. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah, you're right. Oh, that's very cool. I didn't think about it. Yeah.
He does really well, and he puts them out right before the person's going to fight. You know, he puts out a Glover Teixeira one right before Glover Teixeira fights, or he puts out.
Smart.
He always does that. Super smart.
Yeah, that fight didn't go Teixeira's way, but hey, he's
man, he got beat down.
Yeah, honestly, I would stop that fight earlier. Like there was, I don't remember the round where he was doing barely enough to stay in the fight, but it's almost like I wouldn't be too upset if that fight stopped. But anyway, back to you, sir.
I agree with that.
Yeah, you and MMA Guru had a stream when you actually hit your 100. I thought, and I actually texted you, I thought you guys had beef between each other. At least I could tell that your fans and his fans, like they almost like Conor and Khabib type of things, you know? I'm like, okay, so it's gonna be interesting. Like, what's going on? Apparently, you guys are friends. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
I like that kid, man.
He's smart.
Funny, dude.
Yeah.
He's super smart. When all that was going on, I was like I never make any rash moves, you know? Like there's no war for me that's not extraordinarily methodical, you know? And so I just looked, and when I watched him, I was like, I just knew, I'm like, oh, I see. He might be the only person in this space that is operating as strategically as I am. And I mean, like surgically strategic. So my vision for my channel is to be extraordinarily well networked. right? Like where I have a relationship with everyone. Like all these people are like enemies are the enemy of my goals, right? Like I want nothing but friends, access, kind of, you know, move up the kind of like the content social ladder, not like for like access and brand recognition, etc. Like that's what the vision is. Gurus is the underground king. Like he wants fucking no friends. Like he wants enemy. He wants willing adversaries. Like that's what he wants. He wants people that will battle with him so that he can leverage that for attention, and then he'll generally win. He'll win the battle. So as soon as I figured out, like, I'm like, oh, he's trying to bait me into this. So I just didn't do it, you know, because he's done it to everybody. Like he's done it to everybody. And I didn't bite.
Dude, yeah. How did he bait Dan Hardy into this stuff? Like, Dan, come on. Like, what's going on?
He baited Dan Hardy, Mark Goddard and Dan Hardy did like a 90-minute conversation with the two of them at a table about MMA Guru.
Yeah, and then he probably had
he got O'Malley, he got Aljamain Sterling.
I didn't know about him until fairly recently. And then I saw two clips of, like, one when he was shitting on Islam and Dagestanis, and it obviously rubs me the wrong way. I'm from that region, I'm their fan. I'm like, who is this guy? I don't like him. Then I saw him, he kind of, they were like short clip, he was kind of something between you and him, like, he was baiting you, as you said. I'm like, okay, I don't like this guy. But then I saw that you were having this stream with him, and I start listening to him because I'm like, well, if JC likes him, there's something there. He's an interesting guy, and he's pretty smart, and I like his analysis, and he's also a very high output guy.
He sees people the same way I do. It's like it's a very rare trait, dude. Like, and a fisherman can spot, like, people like us can always pick each other out. And it's super fucking rare, dude. Like, people just see right through a person, and he's got that same thing. It's like you can just watch, you look at a person, you're like, I know exactly what motivates that guy. I know exactly where if I poke in this way, what they'll do here. That's probably why he respects me over all these other guys, is because I didn't bite. It's like, I didn't bite, dude. It's like, but yeah, I like him, dude. He's funny, man. He's super understated funny too. I was laughing out loud, dude. I was like, dude, he's fucking hilarious, man. Yeah, I mean, like, so what I was gonna say is, without just outright betraying confidences, a very, very prominent name in the UFC, family and content creation family, when he saw that I did something with Guru, reached out to me unprompted to go, I hate that dude. And I was like, and I read that, I'm like that is absolute demonstrated proof that exactly what he's trying to do is working. Like, that this dude hates him that much that unprompted he DM'd me to tell me he hates that guy.
Did you tell Guru that happened?
Of course.
Yeah, because I think I know what we're talking about. I think you texted me too. Yeah, so yeah, it's funny. But you know what also why it happens is because his criticism is fair. It's not just he's just calling them idiots. There is something in there what he said. I'm like, all right, that's why they bait him. Anyway,
he structures arguments in a very intentional and smart way, where, like, he'll frame it like, oh man, I have a real ethical problem with what you're doing. And why I like it is because probably not. He just knows he has an exceptional argument, and he's just going to paint you into a corner with it.
Yeah. Well,
I like and respect human strategists over all other things. Where they're playing human chess. That's what I always used to say when I was building Major League Fantasy. That I was like, what I love about business in general and all of these things that I'm working on is that game of human chess, where it's like, all right, so I'm up against these guys. This is what they're probably going to do. if I want to present this as an opportunity that this, then I need them to look over here at these people. I want them to see it that way. Then I want them to reach out to this person who will then reach out to this person. It's just like all like this, you know, multi-dimensional human chess where you're predicting what people are going to do, how they're going to view things, how they'll communicate those things to other people. And when you can see someone else doing it, I like it.
Speaking of human chess, you made a video about Ngannou and UFC, how they parted and how Ngannou made a mistake. Then you tweeted that Tyson Fury actually calling Ngannou. But when I read this, he basically says, "Hey, let's fight." But in the bottom, he says, "If Usyk cannot come to the terms with me, something like that, you and I should fight." Do you think he's basically using Ngannou to put pressure on the Usyk, or do you think he really plans to fight Ngannou at some point?
Both.
Is Ngannou the biggest fight that Tyson Fury can have? Why does Tyson even care about it?
I think that for Tyson, it looks like free money. Like, it's like, he's just like, if I'm like, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but if I'm Tyson Fury, I'm looking at Francis as it is fundamentally impossible that this guy beats me. And, but here's the other thing is like, Francis is in a tough spot, dude. And some of this is not his fault. I found out, right? So the things that I laid out where I was like, how did he not have a plan in place for a PR tour immediately upon free agency, right? Like, that was, to me, just like, dude, every minute from this moment on and that moment on that he has not announced what he's going to do, his value goes down and down and down and down. Like, he has to choose what he's going to do and start driving towards it right now. Like, literally right now, not next week. Like, it has to happen right now, or else he is going to have not signed this deal with the UFC to like prove a point. And you have no options over here. Like, you are boxing. Like, that's what, but like, so the reason why he doesn't have a management team, okay, is simple. So, you know, Markel is one of my really good friends, his former manager. Markel is a CAA. Okay. So I thought that Francis had just like left Markel for at least like a short period. That's what I thought kind of happened or whatever. What actually happened is CAA shuttered their entire MMA division. And the reason that they did that, even though they have Francis and this huge potential Tyson Fury fight. But the thing is like, Endeavor is their number one corporate adversary.
Yep.
And Endeavor owns UFC.
Yep.
And UFC owns all of combat sports. So they're like, we're just getting out of this business. I mean, you know, the art of war. If your opponent is stronger, don't fight. And it's like the power dynamic in combat sports for Endeavor versus CAA is so astronomical. They're like, we're just getting out of this. Like, we're just not doing this. And so they shuttered the MMA division. From how I read the situation, when they shuttered the MMA division, Francis thought that he's like still with CAA, right? Like, he's like, okay, well, I'm still with CAA. Like, I've been writing them the checks or whatnot. And in order to maintain management, he needed to just like immediately go with Markel. And he might do that. Like, he might, because he needs management. Like, he needs management immediately. But the reason he doesn't have management is because CAA shuttered the MMA division. And there was this like weird moment of
confusion. Yeah, I got it. Yeah,
exactly. And so like, I mean, he absolutely has to, absolutely 100% has to get management, and they need to get moving right now.
But who outside of Markel, who would take him? Like, if you Ali, for example,
anyone.
Like, well,
absolutely anyone.
No. If you Ali Abdulaziz,
management or
yeah. Like, why would Ali Abdulaziz?
Oh my God, Ali Abdulaziz would take him in a millisecond if he.
Why
if he would?
But he would have he would sign somebody who UFC hates. You think Ali would do that? There's just like terrible.
The UFC doesn't hate him. They just want, like, the UFC just wants him to sign with them, and he's not doing it. You know, like, the UFC is not going to blackball him or anything. They're just like they're mad that he's not signing. You know, because no one has ever. Because here's the thing: okay, so let's just operate under the assumption that what Dana and them said about making him an offer that would have made him the highest paid heavyweight of all time is true.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical about that only because I'm pretty sure Brock Lesnar was making 10 a fight. Maybe they offered that to Francis. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think so either. So let's say, for example's sake, that they offered him $8 million for the John Jones fight and then $5 million for the fights afterwards, something like that, right? So the reason that it makes sense for him to not sign that contract is because he has a $35 million option to fight Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder. Okay. If you don't have that option, then you're insane not to sign that contract.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. It's like you either have boxing or you are living in a delusional land where your opportunity, like, it's just like, it's nice that you wish that there was a big opportunity outside of UFC, but that wish doesn't exist. Okay. Like it's not, so it's either Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, or it's nothing. Like, or, you know, maybe Anthony Joshua, like it's that, or it's nothing. So what I don't understand is like, when he came out and did this recent, he made like a statement. He actually did it the day after I did that video. I know like Markel has sent him a bunch of my videos, so it's highly probable that Francis saw my video that I did. Because then the next day he put out a video on Facebook and just was kind of explaining. He's like, look, it's unfortunate, you know, the UFC and I couldn't come to an agreement. He's like, I just needed, you know, it's about the freedom and I just need to take some time and figure out exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm like, that is literally like, that's like the exact opposite of what you need to do. You need to put a team in place that is capable of putting together a massive boxing deal, period. Like that's it. That is it. Like whatever team you put together, their qualifications are capable of putting together a massive boxing event or being a part of a massive boxing event. Like that is it. Because if you don't do that, you're not signing with PFL. PFL's not paying you $8 million.
Yeah, definitely.
You're not signing with Bellator. Like it is boxing or UFC. It's as simple as that, dude. Those are your options. And so there's no figure out what you're going to do. You're boxing or you're signing with UFC. The end, you know? And the second that John Jones becomes champion, if he does, your value with UFC, your leverage with UFC goes way down.
Yeah.
If Cyril beats John Jones, then everyone will look, because the UFC is just going to, if John Jones wins, the UFC is just going to be like, oh, hey, oh man, can we please beg Francis to come back? John Jones, the champion, undefeated. He's never lost, greatest heavyweight of all time. You know, he's won one heavyweight fight, greatest heavyweight of all time. Yep. You know, Francis isn't the champion, and people will forget about Francis. Like they just will. It's like, because it's John Jones.
I'm thinking about Francis's fight in UFC. Okay, so if he fought John Jones, yeah, it's a massive fight. But every fight after that, does it really worth $5 million? Does he really put that many people on a seat? I don't think so. As much as he's one of the most fascinating stories ever.
Listen, if he starches John Jones, that changes everything.
Good point.
That absolutely changes everything.
That's
the thing is like, it's so crazy how people view Francis to me, because to me, he is this absolutely superhuman wrecking ball of terrifying violence. Like he's the scariest fighter that's ever existed, ever. Like when, you know, on his way up, he just was decapitating everyone. No one could last halfway through a round with him. These are the biggest, scariest fighters on earth. And no one could get through 90 seconds. Some people couldn't get through 20 seconds. He just starched them all. Like the second he touches them, they're done. And that's his entire ascension. And then he goes into the first Stipe fight so overconfident to fight against the most winning heavyweight of all time. And he just went in there like, just going to go in there and starch him. And he had not trained wrestling like at all. And so Stipe took him down. He still almost knocked Stipe out in the fourth round. Like, and then there's that weird Derek Lewis fight that just was like, I honestly don't even consider that. That fight to me looks like a bad day of training or something. Like that's like that. It has no implications on Francis as a fighter now at all. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's a non-existent fight. in terms of how good is he? How scared of him should you be? Because as soon as you get through that, it's like, oh, okay, Cain Velasquez, 28 seconds, you know. Who's next? Rosenstruck, 15 seconds. Junior Dos Santos, 70 seconds. Dude, he knocked out the 3 guys that he knocked out to get to the next title shot. He did it in a combined less than 2 minutes and 11 seconds is what he did. Oh, and Curtis Blades. I'm sorry, it was 4 guys. It was 4 guys combined.
I forgot all those, yeah. Huh.
And then he goes and fights Stipe, still greatest heavyweight ever, and just absolutely manhandles him in the first, shows that he does have wrestling now, and then just puts his lights completely out. And the Cyril Gane fight, this last one, where people are like, oh, maybe his striking's not as good as people think. He had a torn meniscus. Everyone was telling him not to fight. Everyone. And I knew this going in. Everyone knew he was telling him, don't fight. And he did it anyway. And then he figured out a way to win anyway.
That fight was one of the most impressive in my book because he started wrestling with Gane. Who predicted those? No one. And Gane clearly didn't predict that. And that basically showed me how his IQ and skills improved. And when everyone who was, criticizing clearly doesn't know crap about the MMA.
No. Eric, his coach, had told me that. He was like, it was, I can't remember if it was before that fight or it was before one of the other ones, but he told me, he's like, look, he's like, no one's going to believe it until they actually see it. He's like, but take it from me. He's like, he's not only better, he's like, he's good at wrestling now. He's like actually good. He's like, when he gets on top of people, it's the worst night. And I thought about that. I was like, gosh, that must be awful. Yeah. Awful to have him on top of people. But yeah, and then he proved it. Well, you know what? That was before the Stipe fight. And then he shook Stipe off so easily in that. Where people, this is what I don't understand. It's like people get these ideas in their head about fighters, and then if they show improvement, instead of going, wow, that guy got much better. It's like if there's something that's been like kind of tattooed on the narrative about this guy, Francis cannot wrestle. And then it's like 3 years later. Do you know how good you can get at something in 3 years, training every single day? And so and then when he goes against Stipe, it's like, oh, Stipe just really didn't shoot well this time. It's like, oh, you don't think that maybe in the 3 years between the 2 fights, Francis focused an extraordinary amount of energy on getting better at that one thing that was his weakness? Like maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, what are those chances? And by the way, if people didn't see his Molly's documentary on Francis, should definitely see it. It kind of put him.
Mixed Molly's, it's
insane.
amazing.
That life of where he came from, Francis, and where he is now, it's just unbelievable. It's put him in the same realm with Schwarzenegger. I don't know, the guy also another.
It's the most. I honestly think it's the most improbable success story ever.
In the MMA, definitely,
just because. I think anywhere. He was in his 20s. He was in his 20s, mid-20s, has never trained boxing. And he's like, yeah, I think I'll leave this sand mine in Cameroon with absolutely no reasonable way to even be able to get into Europe, much less find someone to train me and then turn into a semi-competent fighter and then go become the heavyweight world champion in boxing. It's unfathomable. It's impossible. And he's 1 fight away from doing it now too. That's the thing. And that's what I'm saying. That is the only story he should be telling right now. That's the only story. Forget about Dana. Forget about the UFC contract. The only story that anyone should be talking about from his team is that story. 24 years old, sand mine, never boxed 1 time, no experience organized fighting. Set my mind that I'm going to go become the heavyweight world champion after watching Mike Tyson videos, spent 2 years, going through a barbaric hell that you could never even fathom just to get to stage 1, which was being homeless in France with no team. And now I'm 1 fight away from actually realizing the most impossible dream that any athlete has ever chased ever. That's the story he should be telling. That's it. That's the only thing. and then go book that fight.
Well, hopefully he does it. Let's see. Let's see. What's the story you should be telling about you then? What is your channel going, and what do you see you're gonna be like? I hate this stupid question they ask, like, oh, where are you gonna see yourself in 5 years? But where are you going? Like, what's the vision for that?
I think in 5 years, I'll be one of the most well-known content brands in the world.
Content, MMA,
like podcasts,
or
content, like just, you know, like I'll be one of the most well-known kind of brands there is, you know, like Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, guys like that sit in front of a microphone and talk. I think I'll be an absolutely tip-top brand. I can't tell you exactly how that's going to work yet, because that's not my job to solve. That's the other thing. Like, that's the thing that I realize is, like, you visualize and see the destination. And if you really believe that that's where you're going to go, what you focus on is your day-to-day and the things that you can control. Like I was saying about what to focus on in terms of, you know, what your personal goals are. It's got to be things that you can control. So I can't control when and where or what the inciting incident is that puts me on the road to that, right? I can visualize probably what it'll be, and I'll say that in a second. But like, when I first set out, I don't go, oh, I want to have 5,000 subscribers by blah, blah, blah. I say, I want to do 7 videos a week every week, because I can control that. There's no one who can get in my way of doing that. It's completely on me to do it. And so I do it. Right. And that's how, I mean, that is how I structure everything that I do related to the channel. And also, I'm very strategic, like very, 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 very strategic.
If some big deal comes your way, you sign and you became a big star, I'm the first guy who interviews you. Sounds good?
I would have to get outlandishly busy for me to ever say no to you interviewing me.
Well, man, thanks for your time. Yeah. Always happy to have you, and it's a pleasure to see you saying what you're gonna be doing, say where you're going to be in a certain amount of time, and get in there is freaking awesome to observe.